I'm Tom Haskell on the operations team, and I want to go over a little bit about DataDog, which hopefully you guys have all heard that name before, but it basically allows us to get real-time metrics about our applications, all kinds of different data. So there's a couple different inputs into DataDog. It runs an agent that runs on like every server that we run in production, in QA and stage, and it collects like all kinds of system-related metrics, so like disk information, CPU information, memory information, network stuff, like all kinds of good things like that you'd want to know about systems. It also integrates with like third-party software that we run, so things like Rabbit or Cassandra. It can like report specific metrics about like what's going on with those applications. And then the biggest thing is you can actually emit metrics into the system like from our applications. So I don't want to get too deep into like how to write metrics from the applications. There's like a good blog post from Cameron about like how to emit stuff, and then there's like plenty of examples all through code of people like emitting all kinds of stuff, but essentially like trying to get any type of metrics that are important for your application to know in more real time than what you see in like IQL Web or Ramses or whatever, which are always delayed. So you can start jumping into like an example dashboard and show you like what type of information is available. This is a dashboard that was created by Dave Waller, who's one of the developers, to like look at what's going on like during the rollout of Cassandra for job data personalization. So this has a bunch of different things incorporated with it. So this here are data points that are emitted from JASX. So JASX actually is writing out like each instance, how many personalization requests are happening. And then there's some data from Cassandra. So this is like the third-party integration that like allows you to see, since we're using Cassandra for this specific thing, like what's actually happening in the Cassandra instances. And there's all kinds of like different details, errors, rate, latency. Another cool thing is like load. So like Cassandra database load is another Cassandra stat. CPU utilization, which is like pretty important to look at if you're worried about like system performance levels. So like all these kinds of things are a good way to like get an idea of in real time like what's going on like as we're rolling out a new feature or doing a deploy or just troubleshooting any type of production performance issue. Here's another good example dashboard, which has a bunch of garbage related information. So a good thing about this dashboard to point out is that this is a template dashboard. So basically what happens is like you would define a dashboard allowing the use of like different variables. So you never have to change a dashboard, and you can just like reuse it over and over just by like changing what application, what location you're looking at. So this is like looking at specific Resonix service instance in IID, and it shows you like what's going on. So you can see interesting things like, okay, this was during like an optimized index reload, and you can see that there was a lot of time spent in folder C while it was like reloading this optimized index. And over the past week, you can see like similar patterns where we noticed like that we were getting more and more time spent in full GC during the optimized reload, and then increase the heap, and then you can see like nothing happening the day after. So with these types of dashboards where they're using a template, you can just change to look at a different instance, look at a different data center, and super easy to kind of get a different view just by changing these templates. So what we used to do was we had like a dashboard, like per data center or something that was all very specific, and those are just like impossible to scale. So like when you guys are creating dashboards, it's pretty useful to have like some way to look at different different drill down of those same metrics, but over over different data. Different data. So here's a good example of something that like you guys might do, which is like, you know, your application is producing some data. So in this case, this is looking at like recommendation data. So like as they're introducing new models or new A/B tests where they want to, you know, test different data type in their index, they're able to like look in advance and see like, you know, what's the utilization in production, like how big is the data? Is it going to like cause ops to get some disk page because like there's not enough space in the file system? Like, should I let someone know before turning this test on? And this is kind of like a good dashboard overview, which like breaks down different sizes of their data. So like you can see the size of their index, size of their record log is broken down, and then this is like, you know, utilization of the file system where this data lives. So there's some like lines where you, like if you cross this line, then bad things happen, and like it gives the developers access to kind of like look at this data on their own, you know, where you guys can say like, okay, I guess we need to tell someone in operations that we need more disk space in order to turn on this new A/B test, or if I add 20 gigs of data, it's going to cause a page. So one of the key use of this data in DataDog, especially from like application perspective, is like during deploys and during issues. So I just pulled up like the last 3 event tickets, which all like have some cool DataDog stuff. So this dashboard's pretty crazy, and I'll step through like what all these different points mean and like how you guys can use them when you set up your own dashboards. But for like basic problem, you know, there's some issue this is like during a mobile deploy where everything broke in HKG. So like using this dashboard during the deploy would like let you see what's going on basically in real time. Like when you click like the deploy button, you know, like the code's going out, like Tomcat instances are restarting, and then things start breaking. So it's pretty noticeable. You can see there's like, you know, this is probably not a good sign when like the rate drops down to 0 for searches, and then you see like this stack up in connections. And so like without seeing this data or without like watching these metrics during a deploy, it's pretty hard to kind of like know what's going on successfully, right? So like you like click some button in Rundeck, like your code deploys, and then what? Like you go to do like your smoke test, you like hit the site somewhere, but you don't know if there's like, you know, some big drastic change to performance or big drastic change to people being able to access it. So I'll step through like what this dashboard is showing here, and this is pretty common. So this for this job search performance dashboard, it's looking at basically JASX and job search service. So with JASX is going through like Apache and Tomcat via ModJK. So there's a couple different pathways that like the traffic takes. So first thing, most obvious thing is like the load on the systems, okay? So like these are the servers running JASX. These are the servers running job search service. This is during the deploy time. You can see there's like, you know, these crazy load spikes during deploy, which is probably not that great. And then you see like memory utilization. So here's the first like big indication of like a problem. So anybody who's like running or developing like an application that is going to be like user facing, so you're going to be like going through an Apache, like through a front end load balancer, like going through ModJK to get the traffic back to your Tomcat instance, will have like these Apache workers and like busy AJP connections are two like critical things to look at, and they basically indicate like that there's some type of large like request queue. So over here, you can see that like, so these are the number of connections that like sit at basically at the Tomcat level, like in AJP, like waiting for the application to be able to do work with them. And like, you can see almost immediately after this deploy happens that this just goes all the way up to max. And then this is back in Apache where like the requests come in and get queued up. And this starts going way up. And this is an indication that there's some type of slowdown or issue in the application, right? So like the application cannot perform as fast as it normally performs, or there's some type of errors going on, and then all of a sudden like every connection queues up, and it happens pretty fast based on our volume of traffic. And you can see corresponding with that, like as the number of connections get queued up, we see like this big drop off in like the rate of connections. And this shows like the week before, so this is like the previous week, and then like down here is what actually was happening like during that time. So you have like some good idea of, is this abnormal for today versus last week, to get some idea of like what it should look like. Going further down, you can see like some time data where, it's pretty high number. Probably not good to have a median total time of like 5 billion seconds. So that's a good way. Like by watching this, you're always gonna notice like a problem, like especially during a deploy time, like before any monitoring will pick it up. Like if you're keeping an eye on this dashboard, like based on how quickly like the metrics get uploaded and displayed via DataDog, like you'll be able to see that there are problems before like even somebody on Ops knows that there are problems. So you guys are able to like respond quicker and let us know like, hey, we just saw this like crazy thing happen, and roll your code back and whatnot. There's another good event ticket. So this is recommendation performance issue, which was also during a deploy. So this is our nice job search performance dashboard. And this was a interesting problem. We have another recommend specific dashboard, which I worked with Preetha to like get all the right metrics emitted from recommend service and reckoner service to like kind of get an idea of like what's going on with request counts, request times. Like those are the biggest things that we kind of look for in here is like, what should your application be doing? Like it should be doing some type of request, and the request should be taking some amount of time that's not crazy. So where am I? Okay, so this is same thing that we're looking at in the other dashboard, except for during this time. You can see a very similar thing happened here, which is the recommend service deploy happened. You see like this huge spike in connections being queued up, which indicates like some slowdown is occurring. The other metrics look normal, right? So like desktop search rates all look normal, API search rates look normal. Like we don't really see anything crazy out of the ordinary. There's some like increase here in times, but looking at like the recommend service dashboard, like you can see, big spikes in load during the deploy time, and then this massive drop off. And since recommend service is like tied pretty integrally into JASX, this caused all the issues. But like watching this deploy dashboard, or getting a deploy dashboard similar to this setup for like your application that you can watch during a deploy, we could have caught this, pretty fast. Like as soon as the code is deployed, you basically see like this request time spike up, huge, and everything just break horribly. So this is looking at very similar things. So with recommend service, like you're not having that Apache and Tomcat level stuff, but we have the same type of metrics where it's basically looking at different request types and their counts compared to the previous week. So you can see that like, there's a slight increase versus the previous week, which is expected like as traffic is growing, and then like this whole thing crashes, and like last week we were just smooth. And also request times we have here. And then some other interesting like garbage related information. So like if you have like a backend application that you're like a boxcar application that you're producing events from, like go ahead and you can clone these dashboards and then modify it to like fit whatever your need is, or start from a fresh dashboard. And then I think there's one more event that was recent. Yeah, so this is another deploy-related outage where Acme service deployed and caused all kinds of issues. And it didn't get picked up in their dashboard, but we have another dashboard, which are all status codes of requests coming from Tweety. And you can see a massive spike in 404s like that correspond with the exact time that they were deploying their code and their bug was out in production. And I think that they ended up improving. So they have a deploy dashboard as well. And I think they ended up like adding some metrics somewhere to try to like catch this type of thing better based off their view of the world. So there's like millions of these dashboards. So like resume search, deployment dashboards is like their view of like what their application should be doing, what metrics are important to them like during a deploy time. I think that they're. So there's like Acme overview, which yeah, they saw like an increase in error counts. That's another cool thing to put on some of these. Kind of try to catch these types of performance issues like as they're happening. Yeah, and the other thing is like this data is generally like not going to be 100%. So the numbers are pretty funky. Like Cameron's blog thing kind of like describes a little bit of like how the numbers actually work. So it's like this averaging of data points over time. So the numbers might not be correct with what you would see in IQL Web or Ramses or whatever, but the trend of the data is generally always correct, but not always. Because if the system's under super high load, it might discard or drop some of the metrics, and you'll see like these big holes, which might not actually exist. So make sure you know like whatever metrics you're putting into DataDog, you know like how to look at those in Ramses or IQL, so you can like double check once that data builds and get a better view of like what's going on. And also like you're not going to have the ability to drill down in DataDog. So DataDog basically gives you like whatever metric you're emitting. You can see like, okay, number of errors per application instance, or you can see the total time or NDX time, but you're not going to be able to break it down by like per country or any of these other like special metrics you can like slice with in IQL. So it's more of like a general, is there a problem? Where can I look? Type deal. So hopefully that is somewhat useful. That's about all I got. You guys got any questions?
So if I don't have a dashboard set up, or I don't want to have time to set one up, can I just look at the general information that's coming in someplace?
Hey Tom, can you repeat the question
Yes.
and then answer it so we get it all recorded?
Wanted to know, like, if there wasn't a dashboard, you didn't have a dashboard set up, like, how can you look at metrics for your application? So that's a hard thing to do. So there's this metrics explorer, which any metric you're emitting, you'll be able to see over time. So if you like look at total time for a dedeploy web app, and you want to see like something, I don't even know if this metric really exists, but like you can pull up a metric and put it over something, but it's kind of hard to do unless you know exactly what you're doing. So like you have to be emitting something. If you're looking at like from your application performance level, like you have to be emitting something from your application to actually like get into DataDog. So like there's nothing really for free as far as like if you write a brand new application, you're not emitting your request counts, then like DataDog won't know that. But if you add that in, then you'll be able to like go in this metrics explorer. Like you'll know the name of the metric because like you created it, and you'll be able to like go in and add something, and you'll be able to see it. So now we know like the thread count of this tool, and you can like add it to a new dashboard and see it the next time that you care about the data. And there's also like system level stuff. So there are some like generic dashboards. So like this ops app info is like a really good templated dashboard where it will work for like any application that's running parallel garbage collector. So like the filtering is kind of crappy. Like it's not very intelligent. So if you click on Acme, you might get like you'll still see like every single instance view. But as long as you like know what you're looking for, you can like get to your data. So like you don't have to do anything. Like every application by default in common code should be emitting these GC log events and also emitting those into DataDog. So like your new application will work in like a template dashboard like this where you get for free some garbage stats and other stuff like that. And then like anything that you do that interacts with like a third-party thing. So like Rabbit, for example, you go in this infrastructure tab, and if this search ever works, like you might be able to see, AusRMQ is running RabbitMQ, and you get like all these metrics specific to like Rabbit or Cassandra or Apache has metrics that are all integrated into DataDog, and then you can check out this dashboard and see what's going on with these queues, any interesting events, and this is more of like from metrics related to Rabbit. So like if your application uses Rabbit and you want to see like what's going on in the cluster that I consume from, you can go in like a view like this. Anyone else?
Is there any way for me to get an email based on my metrics or an alert?
It's an interesting question, yeah. So there's also this whole suite of monitoring stuff in here, which is a good point. So you're able to make a monitor based on like metrics related stuff. So you can create like monitor in stage, if it's above some value or below some value or some other things like this. So but yeah, basically you can like pick any metric that's actually like a real metric. So you can't do, unless they change something, you can't do like take two metrics and say, like, I want to know when the percentage of like this metric divided by this metric like changes. You need to emit like the percentage metric yourself, and then you would do the alert off the percentage metric. But any actual metric that's like emitted to DataDog, you can do like some alert threshold change, like all this stuff. So there's like this whole monitoring, alerting system within DataDog as well, which like some people have set up stuff already. You guys can like get alerts, and like some things we actually like page on call about.
So I noticed there's this events view where you can like overlay sort of events that happen at a particular point in time, and I've looked at it and haven't really seen much useful in there. So I'm wondering how easy is it to get our own stuff into that event stream?
Yeah, so we can write our own stuff into it. We have these like, where is that view? We have like these artifact load events, which nothing uses, and we emit all the time, that we need to clean up. And we used to emit an event every time like a Tomcat would restart, for example, and you'd be able to overlay that, but that broke a while ago. So you can emit specific events. We don't use it very widely, but I think it's something we should be doing more of. And those would overlay as well. Like if you had a dashboard, you can configure that to overlay like some. Let me find one I can actually edit. These are all week over week. So there's like this, the way that you edit this, if you do anything custom, like this is a custom thing, and this is custom, like you lose the ability to do like a nice edit tab, and you have to like actually edit the JSON definition of the report. But if we like add in here, you'd overlay some, deploy event, and then it would give you like all the events. That match whatever it is, emitted like as lines on your graph of like what's happening when. I don't know if that answered your question.
Maybe I missed this, but I saw you do this for Stage. Is this available in all environments?
Yeah, so we run the agent, and like any application running will emit, whether in QA or Stage or production.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right, well.